Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is late on Friday. Got to get down on Friday, May 3rd of 2024. Sorry this took a little long to get up. I've been doing way too much digging on my Twitter with an algorithm that has completely warped things for me without me really following anybody, from Houston sports to legitimately all university protests, to the point that once we talk about the Astros and Mariners for a little bit, I'm going to try to give my best recap as someone who's not really a journalist, but also interested in the goings-ons at universities across the country. But we got to start by talking about the Astros victory against the Seattle Mariners tonight. I think if you're an Astros fan, you're all too familiar with this. I think if you're a Mariners fan, you're all too familiar with this. Games like tonight are why no Houston Astros fans take the Seattle Mariners seriously. No matter how many good starting pitchers they have, no matter how good Julio Rodriguez is or how good he could be, when the Astros play the Mariners, even after last year where the Mariners were 9-4 against Houston, everyone here in H-Town is just waiting for the Mariners to inevitably puke the game away. And they did that last night, or I guess tonight, in a game where the Astros didn't hit for power, one Yordan Alvarez double, in a game where Ronel Blanco seemed a lot more like what you should be expecting from Ronel Blanco on a start-by-start basis. 2 home runs allowed, 3 earned runs. The Mariners still found a way to throw this one away. The foot shooting started right after Blanco had allowed a second home run and Josh Rojas got on base, I think, with an infield single. I remember thinking to myself at that moment in time, oh boy, Blanco might be in for a long night. About time, right? I mean, Ronel Blanco has been pitching way above any expectations, realistic expectations, all year. And you take a look at the 5th inning where the Mariners got that 2-run homer. It was Dylan Moore who hit it, and Rojas on first base after an infield single. You're thinking to yourself, oh boy, this might be one of those innings where Blanco doesn't finish. What happens next? Who's going to come out of the bullpen? Bullpen's been working a little bit the last couple of games. Maybe not so much on Thursday night against the Guardians. And then Josh Rojas, who has a good batting average, but clearly based on tonight is not the most decisive of base runners. Actually, I guess he was decisive here. The other situation, he was less decisive. Let's just say he's not a good base runner, huh? But he gets doubled on a Julio Rodriguez line drive. Right after that, Blanco strikes out Polanco, who had homered off of him in the 3rd inning. He gets out of the 5th. And you're feeling okay. Not great. I mean, the Astros offense hadn't really done anything. And they were going up against George Kirby. I mean, George Kirby's really good. Yordan Alvarez had never had a hit off of George Kirby until he got that double tonight. Joey Loperfido got a couple of hits off of him. That was pretty cool to see, but George Kirby seemed in pretty good command in this game. I mean, the Astros' only run to that point had come on a Jeremy Pena ground out. So you're hoping that George Kirby isn't going to pitch forever, but 88 pitches after 6 innings, I mean, of course they're going to bring him back out for the 7th. And this is where Astros fans will point at Scott Servais and the Mariners organization and say, this is not a serious ball club. I believe it was my guy. He's changed his Twitter handle so many times because he keeps on getting banned. Bless his heart. So let me find it really quickly. But it was my guy. Maybe F4N on Twitter. Must follow if you are an Astros fan. Who said, Seattle remains unserious. Wash, rinse, repeat. He also quote tweeted this a little bit later saying, unfucking serious, like he's Logan Roy. But if you are an Astros fan and you're looking at the Mariners, you're a lot like Logan Roy. Yeah, this dynasty's been going on for a while. Maybe you don't have all the faculties that you've had in the past, but you still look down on a team like Seattle until Seattle actually beats you in a series that matters or finishes ahead of you in the division, which somehow they weren't able to do last year. So after George Kirby gets pulled after 88 pitches, the Mariners just completely pooped their pants. Into the game for George Kirby comes Thornton. Immediately allows a walk, an infield single. John Singleton grounds out, but he gets those runners over to second and third. Jake Myers pinch hits for Joey Loperfido, which I thought was a curious move because Loperfido had 2 hits on the game. But Myers draws a walk. Bases loaded. Cal Raleigh, for whatever reason, got a little cocky and tried to pick off Jeremy Pena off of third base. Threw it into the outfield. Pena scores, it's 3-2. Mauricio Dubon, next at bat, hits a sacrifice fly to right field. Julio Rodriguez and Mitch Haniger collide. Haniger's throw, because of the collision, ends up not being that good. As someone who used to cover the Seattle Mariners, I tell you that I don't really think that highly of Mitch Haniger's arm. I do think highly of Julio Rodriguez's arm. Rodriguez, I think, called Haniger off. It looked like he was a little annoyed with Haniger after that, and for good reason. It's a tie ball game after this sacrifice fly. I think they would have had a play at the plate potentially if not for the collision, but they were off balance. That gave Yainer Diaz a split second to get home. Then, the ballsiest move of all, in the 7th inning, Jose Altuve bunts home Jake Myers with a beautiful bunt down the third base line and somehow beats the throw to first base. Astros have the lead 4-3. And we're not done. Altuve steals second. Kyle Tucker walks. Yordan Alvarez walks. Alex Bregman, who got moved into the cleanup spot, he walks, so it's a bases-loaded walk. It's 5-3. The game's fucking over. I mean, the Mariners gave it to the Astros on a silver platter. And to go back to what I was saying at the very beginning of this is just what we expect in Astros Mariners right now. Even if last year does not reflect that expectation, because Seattle was 9-4 against the Astros last year. But this is just what we expect. More Seattle Mariners screw-ups. The very next inning, the Mariners, it's the 8th inning. You think that Ryan Stresley's on the hill, right? I mean, Ryan Presley, he's been giving us some moments of uncomfortability in his new role, not a closer, now the setup guy. He allows a single by Josh Rojas. Julio Rodriguez singles. They both advance to second and third on a wild pitch. No outs. Jesus. This is looking bad. Very bad. But, to Presley's credit, he strikes out Polanco. And then a all-time bizarre double play. Mitch Haniger flies out to... Who did he fly out to? Flies out to right field. And you think, okay, well, Rojas is going to tag up. He's going to score. Rojas starts to tag up, but then he hesitates, and he goes back to third. But Julio Rodriguez has been running from second to third, and that confusion creates a pickle situation between third and home plate. Also a pickle situation between third and second base. Got to give the Astros a lot of credit for not fucking the pickle up, because there were a couple of throws that weren't the best. They get Rojas out at home plate, double play, innings over. Ryan Presley's going to be off the hill. Josh Hader's finally going to get a save situation. And Hader comes in. He's chucking 97, 98 mile per hour gas, putting it up in Cal Raleigh's grill. He looked great. Finally had a save situation to work with, and he seemed to unleash the hose in this one. And the Astros win. And it's because, in my opinion, of the Mariners' mistakes. I mean, think about that. They had 5 walks in the 7th inning. The Astros had only 1 extra base hit in this game. But the Mariners made errors, the Mariners walked batters, and the Mariners lost. And yeah, the Astros got a way to go to catch up to Seattle and the American League West, right? I mean, going into tonight's game, they were 6 games back. Now they're 5 games back of Seattle. They're still 8 games below 500. A lot of work to do. But they have now won 5 of 6, and I think most Astros fans feel pretty good about what they've seen out of the team over the last couple of games. They got to keep it up, and they're going to have to keep it up for a while. It's weird to think that a game in May or in April is must-win, but that is exactly where we're at right now. The Astros are playing must-win baseball games until they're back above 500. That's at least how I feel. I want to read some comments before we move on and talk about some of the other good things that happened tonight. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, or on Twitter @Gallant Says. Susan Townsend comments, pitching, defense, offense all came together and played like the Astros we expect to see. I agree. Tyler Dre asks, are we back? I am not going to say that they are back until they're back to 500. This is one of those things where our child has disappointed us, right? Like the straight A student, he's done something wrong, but he's doing all he can to get back in our good graces right now, and we might not be appreciating it outwardly so that he can see that we actually like that he's being proactive, he's trying to change some things. We turn away and we smirk. We're smirking right now. We feel good, but we don't want them to know that we're feeling good because they still got more games to win. KB comments, let's go Stros. Todd the Show on Twitch.tv/Gallant says, let's go. Good, tough game. Hunter Hill comments, YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. We still have a little work left and to get healed. That's right. Christian Javier has a rehab start, I think, over the weekend. There's still some other guys that they need to come back as well. But the hope is the more arms that come back, the less that you're going to have to use guys like Hunter Brown on Sunday. I really feel like the Astros have to win tomorrow's game, too, to win this series. I would prefer that they sweep the Mariners, of course, but if Hunter Brown's on the hill on Sunday, I'm not feeling great. I'm really not. Ed Oliver says, glad to see the Astros win. Is this the Ed Oliver? Houston Cougars legend Ed Oliver? Susan Townsend comments, I'm always looking for a late inning rally. It was a weird rally, though. That was one of those rallies where I think the Mariners just peed down their leg. Tyler Dre says, Kirby was good, but we fought for it and we earned it. Yes, but they did earn it after Kirby got pulled. This is not me saying the Astros didn't win the game. The Mariners lost it. But I think that the Mariners handed it to them on a silver platter, and this is kind of what we expect in Astros Mariners. Todd the Show comments, Lope goes 2 for 2, and Espada, to me, overmanages again. But at least he gave Myers the chance when he stole his chance multiple times earlier this year. That was a weird pinch hit. It really was. Maybe he thought that Loperfido was going to swing it too much, and we got to be patient here, and the patience worked. That might have been their scouting report on the Mariners bullpen. Tora McJohnson says there needs to be a bench clearing incident with the Astros. Astros are missing that edge. We normally get those with Astros Mariners if we're going to get them with any team and the Astros. These teams don't like each other. Last year, were there any incidents last year? I know there were some incidents in 2022. I forget if there were incidents last year. Because I think we all have this impression of Scott Service as like he's Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. Like he just wants to get in brawls and eat eggs. What else do we have? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, Goat says J-Lo had a good night. Hunter Hill says, please no J-Lo. It's J-Lope on the Astros broadcast. I prefer to call him Joey the Rope or Joey Roperfido. Joey the Rope sounds like a mob hitman. And I mean, his name is Mario Joseph Loperfido. It's very Italian. I think you got to lean into something Italian. Uncle KRV says, get your antacid ready when Presley and Hader come into the game. Hader, no. Presley, yes. Every single time. Jon Snow says, Kirby owns the Astros. That's true. I mean, he gave up his first hit to Yordan tonight. And Yordan owns the city of Seattle in a way that former city councilwoman Shama Sawant used to own it. And they have the Seattle people that are here. I think you know what I'm talking about. Astros didn't win, though. Seattle beat themselves, said Jon Snow. I mean, they won the game, but the Mariners handed it to them. I think that the Jose Altuve bunt means that the Astros won that game. Because that play was ballsy. I did not expect that at all. Devon Cavazos and Goat having a funny interaction. You think McCullers is going to come back? Goat says McCullers isn't real. McCullers is real. He's in those HEB commercials. Do you not like those? There's some interesting comments right now. People going back and forth with one another. Still scrolling down. Brandon Hallam says, the Astros learned if they score more runs, they get to go home early. Yeah, that game was quick. I like that. I'm not exactly the biggest baseball fan, which might surprise some of you guys seeing us doing a little live stream on a Friday. Don't worry, there's more. I'm probably going to get canceled by half of you when I get to that point. More thoughts on the game before we read through more of your comments. Bregman in the cleanup spot was decent, right? I mean, he was 1 for 3 with a single that didn't score a run. But he had an RBI walk. That's such a weird thing to say. That's what you want out of your cleanup guys. You want him to drive in runs. He did drive in a run. Pena was moved to the 5 spot. Yordan to the 3 spot. Yordan got that double off of Kirby. It's his first hit off of George Kirby, who was a good pitcher. Pena was 0 for 3. With a run, but Pena had probably the craziest moment of the night. He's been having some really good defensive plays the last couple of games. If you were watching that game on the broadcast, there's a fly out. I want to say it was in the 6th inning where you see him running towards the corner on the third base line that goes down towards the Crawford boxes, and he falls into the stands, and you think that he caught the ball. He didn't. Somehow he jumped over Joey Loperfido, who caught the ball as Pena was jumping over him, and Pena basically threw himself into the stands. I thought Jeff Blum had some funny comments about how maybe women in Houston are going to be looking to buy tickets in that spot. If you've listened to my radio show, I'm going to be a little more quiet with it now because I got neighbors downstairs, but I do believe that the entire city of Houston, when they see Jeremy Pena, they all think to themselves, oh, Jeremy, give me babies. Like, he is loved on a level that I don't think any other player on the Houston Astros is. They love that guy. I mean, he is, listen, objectively, as a man, I feel totally comfortable saying, Jeremy Pena's hot. He's hot. So I get why all the ladies want to boink him, and clearly they do. It's like just absolute lust. Surprised that at the parade they didn't storm his float and tear off all of his clothes. What else do we have as far as notes? I really like the gas that Hader threw in the 9th inning. That one ball up and into Raleigh. Raleigh seemed taken aback by that. Jesus, that was a hell of a throw. I think it hit 98 on the gun on that one. More comments. Devon Cavazos asks, what do you think the weakness of the Astros is right now? I still think it's the middle relief. I think the lineup's really good on a night-by-night basis. We'll see how long Chas McCormick's out, but McCormick had been playing poorly. So it's one of those things where now Joey Loperfido gets a chance, and we get to see if he's actually going to be able to make this happen for a while. He is hitting 364 to open things up. He, at the very least, has to be feeling slightly more confident every single game, and he's been pretty good defensively, too. You know, we talk about moving him to first base. He's a pretty good outfielder. So if you're platooning him and Dubon and Myers and a variety of different outfield roles, you feel pretty good. You think your fielding's, at least in the outfield, really good. And occasionally you put Yordan in left. More comments. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Unlimited asks, what's the update on the LinkedIn girl? That's right. For those who don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I, at a HOA meeting, was let into a locked building by a very beautiful woman, and I decided that I had to have her number. So found her on LinkedIn, sent her a DM, said, hey, can I take you out for letting me into the building after it was locked? We had a great date. We have not hung out since. I hope we will hang out again. Who knows, though? Dating is hard. Jose Jimenez says, don't be cocky and say we own them. We need to win the series first. They do own them, Jose. This has been going on for a while. The Astros own the Mariners. The Mariners fans would admit this. You know, I don't play for the team. You don't play for the team. We're allowed to say these things, you know? I'd love to think that the Houston Astros are listening to this podcast right now, but come on. They're probably not. They're probably not. You know? So I don't think that they're going to get cocky listening to this. And they're 8 fucking games under 500 right now, you know? Tora McJohnson asks, is Joe Espada the Steven Silas for the Astros? That's an insult, sir. Todd the Show on YouTube now says, always be cocky if you are an Astros fan. When it ends, it ends. Yes, I agree. Be as cocky as you can for as long as possible. Kevin Jones comments, should have dealt Bregman before the season. He's just Denny Walling at this point. No more, no less. I've never heard that term before. I'm gonna look it up. Denny Walling. Oh, Denny Walling is a baseball player. Oh, damn, that's a reference to an old Houston Astro. Look at this fucking guy. This guy looks so 1980s. Hang on a second. I'm gonna open this up as much as I can so you guys can see it. This is a hell of a photo. Here we go. Look at this guy. Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. I love that stash. But I'm guessing this guy was not very good as a baseball player. What else do we have? Torvik Johnson. Paul is talking on a low volume because he doesn't want to wake his parents. Fuck you, Toro. No, I live in a condo. I own this building. You know, it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath. But I am on the 2nd floor, and I like my downstairs neighbors. Because sometimes they give me... I don't want to... It's illegal, I guess. I can't say that. I can't say what they give me. It's not hard drugs or anything like that. But I like my downstairs neighbors. Don't want to wake them up. If we were doing this a little bit earlier, I might be a little louder. Toro thinks I should use Grindr. You were such an asshole. Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, on that note, I feel like we've talked a lot about the Houston Astros. Do you guys mind if I talk about politics again? You don't have to stick around, but I have had my Twitter timeline absolutely flooded with all of the happenings on universities across the United States. there's lots of protests at colleges across the country over Israel's war with Palestine or Hamas's war with Israel or Israel's war with Hamas. I don't know what it is. I don't. Okay? I know that I don't know enough about what's going on there to have a really strong opinion on what's right and what's wrong. The people in Palestine are kind of totally fucked because Hamas rules the area. Hamas surprise attacked Israel on October 7th. And even if Israel is a tad pushy with Palestine and the West Bank and all that stuff, over and over again, they do have a right to defend themselves. They have been defending themselves for a very long time since that attack. I mean, it's been 6+ months. There's been a lot of death. It's been awful. It's horrible. It's sad. I hope we can all agree on that. I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. To me, the world is gray. There's no good. There's no evil. There are people who do evil acts, though. That's for sure. But right now, there's too many tweets, photos, and videos online for any human being, I think, with or without a life, to keep tabs on all of these protests. For the most part, these protests are mostly students. They're mostly peaceful. And some faculty, I think, are involved in them. And these protests are trying to make a couple of things happen. One, you would hope, at least, they don't seem to talk about this very often, is forcing Israel into a ceasefire with Palestine and or Hamas. Good luck doing that at a college campus. Good luck doing that an ocean away from the conflict. But hey, peace is good. War is bad. Number two, they're trying to force the universities in our country to divest and disclose finances with companies that do business in Israel. Good luck getting them to do that. Maybe the universities will say that they will, but they only have to wait for you students to leave campus. And it's May. Final exams are happening right now. A lot of you guys are going to be gone in a couple of weeks. So they can afford to wait and delay and say that they'll do these things, but just wait until the people that are organizing these protests are, gone. They also want these universities to end partnerships with Israeli institutions. That's pretty vague. Does that apply to all Jewish people? I don't know. Again, these are the general demands that all these university protests are trying to make the universities agree to. I've also seen the word Zionism all over the fucking place, and no one can agree on what the meaning of it is. There was a Washington Post article, and someone said that there's probably 50 different ways to interpret the word Zionism. If you look at the dictionary, Zionism is a movement for the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodor Herzl and later by Chaim Weizmann. A lot of these protests are just throwing that word out, Zionism, and to them I think it's the same as fascism, racism, Nazi. Kind of ironic given that it's a Jewish state. Jews believe, some at least, it's an anti-Semitic term. The best definition that I saw for the word Zionism, which has nothing to do with the rave that takes place in The Matrix Reloaded, the home bubble that they've developed in the tunnels in the war against the machines. But the best definition I've seen is Zionism means the right to self-determination in our historic homeland. It doesn't have to be exclusive. A lot of people don't understand it's not exclusive from having a Palestinian state. It doesn't mean Jews have a right to remove all Palestinians from the region. It's not mutually exclusive. We want self-determination for Palestinians too. We just need Hamas to not be the authority in Gaza. That sounds pretty logical. Difficult to actually accomplish, but that word's being thrown out a lot. And like many things in this conflict, I'm sure it confuses a lot of people who haven't like done a ton of homework on it and who has time to do the homework on all this stuff. I spent like 6 hours putting together notes, and we're not even like an eighth of the way through it right now. But whatever Zionism is, it does seem to be a broad brush way to lump an entire group of people in with the government of another country, sort of like what we do here in the States with China from time to time. As far as the actual protests on these campuses about Zionism, etc., I'm not sure what the hell is going on at all these places. I know we're seeing a lot of stories. I'll say that my Twitter seems to be coming from the perspective of people who lean right. I'd say that my TikTok, which I'm taking a break from for the next month, seems to be taking the perspective of college students and people who are on the left. Whatever the case, I'm about to go through a bunch of the universities where protests are taking place and just tell you what I have seen online. How much of it do I believe? Some of it, but important to know, I have not been on the ground into any of these places. That said, it does seem like most of these encampments at academic institutions have these pamphlets that they hand out that explain the rules of the encampments. And ironically, a lot of these places don't allow everyone in, which you'd think that they would want to do. They want to inform ignorant people, that's their words, about what's going on. And there's a bit of trampling on the idea of free speech in these encampments as well. No photography, no videotaping. It's still happening, but you'll notice that the people that go into these places and start recording, whether they're doing it nefariously in the eyes of the people who are in those encampments or just out of curiosity, generally those people have been met with hostility, you know? So let's go through all the universities and what's going on at them. George Washington University, there was a protester sign that said "Final Solution." That's bad. Seems a little anti-Semitic. Faculty's helping out people at some of the, I guess, barrier locations of the encampment. Like they were like standing arm in arm with one another. At Washington, activists postponed a Washington encampment. This is in Seattle because there were too many white students involved. That's the report that I saw. They then made a second encampment. I guess it was less white. Seattle's not that diverse of a city as someone who used to live there, but hey, do you? At USC, this is what I saw on TikTok. A TikToker claimed the LAPD committed a school shooting with riot munitions. So I think they like fired some tear gas or something to calm people down. That's not the best way to describe someone shooting tear gas, even if you disagree with it. Can you call it a school shooting in these days? Ugh. Princeton, there's Hezbollah flags. That's different. An undergrad on a Princeton black student group chat messaged the whole group chat saying that their lawyer needs, quote, videos of protesters looking peaceful that led to some backlash and a purge. That's fun. Penn. You saw an organizer claiming UPenn has been seized by us in an Instagram story post. I don't know about that. But hey, whatever you feel, that's wonderful. And a professor went viral for retweeting a tweet justifying the October 7th massacre under international law. Okay. Using laws to justify murder. Hey, academics, they're going to academic, right? Rutgers seems to have caved the most to the demands. They had a list of 10 demands that they gave to the people at Rutgers. 8 of them were met immediately. They also postponed 28 final exams. Rutgers, the home of James Gandolfini, who, of course, played Tony Soprano, who is not a real character. I don't think Tony Soprano would have liked this. Harvard, the American flag was replaced with a Palestinian flag. Northwestern, people were wearing Hamas-branded clothing. That's, again, bold fashion choice. Some faculty let people miss class to attend the Solidarity rally. They cut a deal with the encampment organizer, and the camps were taken down after 4 days. Some of these demands were essentially like full-ride scholarships to Palestinian students, guaranteed faculty jobs for Palestinian academics. And hilariously, once this agreement was reached, like an actual compromise, the president of the encampment was called a sellout Palestinian for backing the agreement, which ended the encampment. North Carolina, someone replaced the American flag with a Palestinian flag. So police went to campus to disperse camps and put the American flag back up. They had water bottles thrown at them. It was interesting also to see the racial component of these police officers, seeing as it does feel as if a lot of the people at these protests tend to lean very left. It was interesting to see that police officers of color are just police officers to them. I suppose that is not seeing color, so they got that going, but that video is up at CNN. And then after the American flag was back up, this is where frats entered the scene. There's an image of frat brothers being pelted by anti-Israel protesters while protecting the American flag. Someone turned it into a cartoon where it looks like they are raising the flag at Iwo Jima in that iconic photo, except for they're all wearing like polos and pastel shorts. A GoFundMe raised $500,000 for that frat that was defending the flag. LSU, something similar happened here too. A group of frat-saving people confronted the protesters. There was no violence, at least, so that's neato. There's been lots of divisiveness. There was one moment of unity that I saw at all of these protests. At LSU and at Alabama, both groups joined in saying, fuck Joe Biden. So that's interesting. The big schools that really had drama go down. There was UCLA. A mob chased down and surrounded a Jewish student because he had wandered into an area where they don't allow Zionist Jews, whatever that means. And they didn't let him leave for about an hour. They had checkpoints that they got to stop Jews from entering certain locations of campus, or at least people that they thought looked Jewish, I guess. People who were in opposition to the protests in the encampment constructed a giant screen with loudspeakers outside the encampment showing footage of October 7th on loop. I think that was genius as far as counter-protesting goes. You don't have to stand there either. You just leave the equipment out there. Unless you paid for all the equipment, then it might cost a little bit of money. But, TVs don't cost that much these days. More counter-protesters blared the national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance at the encampment. And at some point, things got violent. And there seemed to be an actual, Donnybrook between the protesters and the counter-protesters, which led to police stepping in and shutting down the occupation. We'll get back to UCLA in a moment. One more protest that took place that really seemed to get out of hand was Columbia. UCLA and Columbia, were best in show, I guess, as far as just absolute fucking chaos on campus. It all started, AOC visited their protest last week to say that their leadership is just so fantastic, which is kind of funny because one of the leaders, Kaimani James, did a live stream of a disciplinary meeting that he had had with Columbia University's administration back in January after making threatening social media posts. And in this live stream, he said, Zionists don't deserve to live, and saying, be glad, be grateful, I'm not just going out and murdering Zionists. I've never murdered anyone, and I hope to keep it that way. So this happened in January in a disciplinary hearing. And I guess Columbia was like, not that big of a deal. So he becomes the leader of the encampment at Columbia, which got very, very radical. And last Thursday, he did an interview with CNN. The video resurfaced before, I believe, this interview took place, not too long after. They asked him to apologize a couple of times, and he repeatedly refused to apologize along the way. The very next day, he apologized for the 90-minute video, but it was a shit apology. You can read it for yourself. He said the video was edited, and he painted himself as a victim who in that moment had been harassed before, quote, apologizing for misspeaking 6 paragraphs into his statement. What else was going on at Columbia? Someone posed in front of people holding an Israeli and American flag saying they'd be the next victim of a Hamas military wing. They yelled at Jews to go back to Poland. They encouraged Hamas to burn Tel Aviv to the ground. And they said that if you oppose indiscriminately firing rockets at Israel, you're a piece of shit. You had professors canceling final exams. Eventually, these protesters took over a building. Once the protesters took over the building, the mayor of New York got involved, Eric Adams. They breach the building, and they go inside the building and find that on a whiteboard, there's like violent thoughts being written everywhere. So it got out of hand. So that's really what's been going on. We'll talk about Texas on a future episode. Again, there's so much going on. I just wrote down notes for as much as I saw, and eventually I was like, fuck, I don't want to look at Twitter. I don't want to look at TikTok anymore. This is depressing me. It's happening everywhere. It feels like the universities are just sitting on their hands, hoping that someone with more authority than them will take things out of their hands. As for the protesters, with finals around the corner, as I said a little bit earlier, I really wonder what they hope to accomplish, because their encampment ceases to matter once everyone leaves campus, right? Because it's supposed to either annoy people into taking their side or convert people to join them, which I have a hard time believing that'll happen. You know, you're walking on campus to class and you see a bunch of encampments, which are probably sloppy looking. Are you going to think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to go into these tents, hopefully be allowed into these tents, and read a book about the Israeli occupation of Palestine? It doesn't seem very likely. It seems like everybody that's in the encampment agrees with one another, but it also doesn't feel like they're the kind of people that are willing to add in new people without them going through an extreme series of testing to prove that they're not an inside person or something like that. These people have been making demands, lots of them. For example, at UCLA, some of the demands that we've seen are like this: divest, withdraw all UC-wide and UCLA Foundation funds from companies and institutions that are complicit in the Israeli occupation, apartheid, and genocide of the Palestinian people. Disclose, provide full transparency to all UC-wide and UCLA Foundation assets, including investments, donations, and grants. That's not fucking happening. Abolish policing, end the targeted repression and policing of pro-Palestinian advocacy on campus, and sever all ties with the LAPD. Well, I mean, if there's fights taking place between students, sorry, kids, but that's just not going to happen. And, you know, they went a little bit further, saying that the University of California is founded on colonialism in this little speech that they did on a podium. Are they willing to negotiate? And this is, again, where it gets a little bit... You get to a point where you're like, I don't know that these people actually want to negotiate. It seems like they just want to yell at people. So, UCLA's provost, Darnell Hunt, met with the UCLA encampment activists. Watch for yourself. Do you feel like these people are actually proactively negotiating here?
We're asking for EMTs, we're asking for police, all these things. And they said, we cannot come in yet because we have not gotten the UC's jurisdiction. They have not yet allowed us into the academy. They said that.
We called 911 immediately when we saw what was happening, when it was clear that our police were overwhelmed. And that's all. And again, that's going to come out.
This is not the first time. Remember back in March
I was there. I was there. I heard the call. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was there when we requested. Well, I was there when we requested. Okay, well, I was there when we requested, and I think the investigation is so fast. But look, I need to go. So,
You should see what happens to us at 6. You should stay
So, I mean, he says he has to go. He gets up to go. Essentially, everyone's sitting around in a circle, performatively yelling at him. Are they trying to actually engage in negotiations there? No, they're clearly not. They're not. You can't really negotiate when the fucking peanut gallery is involved as well. And look, these are kids. They don't know how to make this thing work. If they had a couple of people meet with this guy and actually go over their demands, maybe they actually would have agreed to some sort of a compromise here. But there's not really any compromise that these people are looking for, is there? So there's more demands that are being made at campuses across the country. I really loved the one that the Columbia Law Review did. This is an Ivy League school, by the way. They urged the law school to cancel exams in the wake of the police operation that cleared the encampment because people were traumatized. Guys, you're lawyers. You're going to have to deal with some tough shit. I do always like a creative, my dog ate my homework kind of excuse. If you don't want to take the exams, this is a good way to get out of it, right? This is a pretty good way to get out of it. Our campus is kind of losing its shit right now. But, I mean, you still got to go to class the next day. You still got to go to work the next day. What do you think the people in Palestine are doing after their homes are getting drone striked? If Israel doesn't shoot them while they're walking around, like on that one video that we saw. That wasn't great. But, I mean, those people get up and go back to whatever they still have left. Fucking tough people, the ones that are just innocent and stuck while Hamas runs that country into the ground. So those are the demands that these groups are making. But these aren't the only demands because there's also some lame demands. I can't believe that some of these entities were demanding, get this, supplies. This is UCLA, where they demanded headlamps, airsoft goggles. These are donations, not necessarily demands. We'll get demands a little bit later. But these are the things that they are looking for, donations. Things that they could have brought themselves that they didn't bring. Headlamps, airsoft goggles, gas masks, and respirators, especially for our medics. Skater helmets, shields, wood for barrier, knee and elbow pads, rain ponchos, canopies, utility gloves without reinforced knuckles of various sizes for small hands, super bright flashlights with strobe, charged, umbrellas. So all of these things are things that you get for resistance. As someone who lived in Seattle while the CHOP, the autonomous zone, was taking place, the strobe light thing's really fucking annoying because they'll shine it so that you can't record them and get any of them on faces after they destroy property. It's their get out of jail free card. Medical, EpiPens, non-steroid inhalers, headlamps, organizational bins. Food, hot food for lunch, important. Vegan food, gluten-free food, ice. No packaged food, why not? No coffee, why not? No bagels, I guess the bagels are Zionist. No bananas. Why no bananas? Because it's colonialist or something? No nuts. Logistics. We need sleeping pads, AA, AAA, C and D batteries, rope, zip ties. That doesn't sound great. Electric, solar power generators, lotion, Aquaphor, no sunscreen. Why no sunscreen? The fuck is that? That's weird. The no sunscreen. That's one I still can't understand. Do they believe like that sunscreen gives you skin cancer? Because some people do believe that, which is crazy to me. The University of Chicago, they're looking for different things as far as their supply requests. Medical tent, table, heat gloves, wound packing gauze, portable chargers, more gauze, tourniquets. What do you need tourniquets for? Bandages, gauze, ABD pads for wounds. I mean, they're expecting to get the shit kicked out of them if they're getting all this stuff. Vaseline, tweezers, CPR masks, butterfly suture closures, disposable stethoscopes, camping sink, bucket with lids. Ew, that's for poop. Helmets, HIV tests, dental dams. Oh my God. Plan B. So they're fucking in here. You got that at least going for you. I don't know what a Diva cup is. Chapstick, that's nice. Blankets, etc., etc. Okay, so they need things. Why didn't they get these things for themselves, though? You had the Colombia protesters who were demanding food and water. And this is the part that tickles me the most. Why would you want to follow these people when they are so planless? Now, most of them probably think that our founding fathers were racist, but those guys organized. They supplied themselves. Flimsily, but they still supplied themselves back in the 1700s. They hid weapons. That's what the Battle of Concord and Lexington were that started the Revolutionary War. The British were trying to seize those weapons. They made do with what they could. Imagine if the American Revolution features these guys begging for food, water, condoms, and dental dams from the British. We'd all have British accents and shit teeth. Be drinking tea instead of coffee. So, our founding fathers would think they're a bunch of pussies. The people that they're supporting in Palestine probably think they're even worse. And it's not just because of how some Islamic fundamentalists look at women and LGBTQ people, many of whom are participating in these protests. But as I said a little earlier, imagine you're getting bombed by Israel every day and you see news about how these pussies, who are supposedly in solidarity with you, are begging for snacks that they should have packed for themselves. And then you see stuff like this. This is probably, of all the things that we saw, I truly think that this is the most embarrassing moment of all. So I want to say this is at UCLA. And I guess at some point, the protesters tried to break out. So they sawed what looks like trash bins and turned them into shields. I'm just going to let you watch here, because I really feel like their form is poor, and they just look so damn pathetic. Look at them. Is this a full speed run? Like they're jogging. And they see people in front of them, they're looking behind them. They're so damn slow. And watch this guy. Look at this. That's it? That's all it took to knock him over? You got a trash can shield. And he gets taken into custody immediately. Listen, okay, you're going to run into somebody. This guy's bigger than you, obviously. But, I mean, come on. You just ran into him, and your leverage is all wrong. He's running high. You have a shield. You gotta drop your hips. Listen, as a high school football player, you gotta drop your hips. You gotta explode upwards into him. It's all about leverage. Honestly, the shield probably hurts you there. But if you're going to do that, you got to get low and drive up with your hips. Drive up, you know? Thank you, Rare Candy. I am an all-district safety. You drive up. This is pathetic. That's it. That's all it took to take him down. Like, okay, regardless of religion, race, etc. Like, imagine these are the fucking pussies on your team. That's what they are. They can't fight for what they want. They can protest. They can sit in an encampment or whatever, but they can't fight. It's kids. And look, they got big hearts. Some of them, I would think. Most of them, maybe. They got big ideas, But it's just such poor execution along the way for this whole thing. So I'm watching from afar. I'm trying to look at it through a neutral lens, mainly because I'm just sick of seeing it on all my fucking algorithms. Twitter, TikTok. I don't care about these protests. These protests don't matter. They really don't, because they're not going to make anything happen. I know that they wanted to make things happen. It's not. These universities are just going to wait until the school year ends, and they'll say they'll do things that they'll never actually follow through on, because people leave college. Over time, people will be exposed who are at these protests. Some of them might get expelled. Tough titties. This is the risk that you made going to these things. If you were one of the people who was abrasive, who was trying to start some shit, perhaps had some, I don't know, like problematic clothes, said some bad things, like you might not be getting a job anytime soon either. So I really still wonder what the fuck these guys were trying to accomplish, trying to stop a war that's taking place an ocean away, that they really don't have much knowledge about except for through books and teachings that they've been getting in classrooms. So there you go, guys. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this rant. I played 1A, by the way, as far as high school football. Look at you, Dark 2, TH. 2A Texas All-State defensive end, 2003. Love it. Yeah, I was like the lowest level high school in Florida. We did not have a diverse league. I was first team all district, I think. There's a plaque over there that says it. I don't know if I believe it. But thanks for stopping by, seriously. I want to do more of this. I do like talking about politics. I don't like doing it in an angry and aggressive way. I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps convince people that are on the fence or who are kind of curious to think the same way as you. I feel like one of the worst parts about the way that news is covered these days is that it's just too fucking angry, whether it's the left or the right. I just read a book called Hate Incorporated by Matt Taibbi. I think it's a great book. It sort of talks about how both sides of the aisle have found a way to just repurpose the same stuff over and over again to get people angry. Being angry, I don't think is necessary. I think just having a laugh at all this stupid, absurd shit, that's what we all should be doing, you know? So, again, I appreciate your time. I put a lot of work into this one. We're about an hour in. I have been working my ass off this week. I'm going to make myself a margarita and perhaps light something up and take a break. But we'll be back at it, possibly Sunday night. We're going to continue to talk about this a little bit. We'll see what happens with the Astros and Mariners the next couple of games. I also have, at some point in the near future, an episode coming where I'm going to grade NFL draft grades. So that ought to be fun. Until then, so long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your weekend and a happy Cinco de Mayo. See you Sunday night.